let me guys tell you a little something about a certain retail company known as Nike, specifically the Nike outlet factory stores. You know, the ones with, the shoes have the tops off, all that stuff. You get everything discounted from the main store. I think everybody knows what a Nike factory store is. So just recently, I had quit my job at Nike, and I'm gonna tell you guys why. I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna tell you something. Let me tell you something. So I used to work at a movie theater from 2022 to 2023, and at the time, you would often hear me complaining that the job sucked, blah 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 blah. The pay was trash. I mean, it is, but I mean, honestly, in hindsight, that job seemed like a dream job compared to what I experienced at Nike. So I started working at Nike in October of 2023, and I worked there until just about a week ago, by the time of this recording. So about a couple weeks into May. So what's that? Like maybe 6-ish months, 7 months ish. So yeah, I started working there mainly because I needed money. Because at the time, my credit card balance was pretty high for a credit card balance. I just did not have the funds to pay it off, and I also had just gotten a new car, so I also needed to start kind of getting the jump on paying that. So I wasn't getting enough hours at the movie theater to basically kind of like pick myself back up. So I left, and I left on good terms with the movie theater, and I put in my 2 weeks and all that. I went to Nike. I was making I was making at least a few $100s more on my paycheck, so I was just getting more hours, and I was making $2 more as well. So actually $3 more. So that was nice, and my paychecks during that time, because it was holiday season, so Black Friday and Christmas and all that stuff, I was making pretty decent paychecks for a part-time retail job. And honestly, the job was okay. It was a little confusing at first, and I did think that, yeah, some of the rules were a bit strict, but overall, I mean, it was an okay experience. I was getting good hours. I was liking a few of my coworkers too. But then January came around. And I swear that was kind of like the start of the end right there. So we had this really cool manager, and he left. He left to go work at a different store in the mall, and it was really sudden, and I didn't really I was like, wow, like he just left like just like that, like like not really any fanfare or whatever. And he was a pretty well liked manager. And he left, and my God, I should have saw the writing on the wall for as to the reasons why he left. Now I don't know the exact reasons why he left, but I man, it was like a sign. And this manager actually let me go home early on Black Friday because on that day we had to work a mandatory 12-hour shift. Now, that sucks, but the paycheck was going to be nice. However, I had the flu. I had the flu that day, and I actually thought about calling in, but I didn't because I was still new, and at the time I didn't want my managers to think that I was just trying to say that I was sick to call off of Black Friday shift, right? Like, no, I wanted to come in to prove that, like, I do want to work. But I want to say maybe 4 or 5 hours into my shift, I couldn't do it anymore. I felt like I was gonna faint. I felt very hot. I had a massive headache. One of the worst headaches I've ever had in my life. It was really, really bad. So I looked like I was about to die. And I also had a coworker that was basically feeling the exact same way. He was feeling sick too. So my two of the head managers that worked there were basically going to let us suffer. I told them that I did not feel good. You could see it in my eyes that I didn't feel good. And she was just like, "Oh, yeah, no, you'll be fine." That was basically what so that gives you a whole vibe as to how these two top managers operate. It's going to get way worse. So they were just going to let me suffer there. And I told them several times that I didn't feel good. I was taking breaks, I was taking breathers and all that stuff, and she kept monitoring what the hell I was doing. And I was kind of just standing there talking to my coworker that also didn't feel good, and she's like, getting on our ass about what we're doing and all that stuff. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm just taking a breather. I don't really feel good. And she's like, well, just in a few minutes, you guys got to go right back to what you're doing, okay? She's like talking like that. That's how she talks. She talks in that like really patronizing, like condescending tone. And I fucking hate that shit. Always have. But it wasn't until the cool manager, he let us go early. He was like, do you want to go home? And I was like, yes, please. I really need to go home. And he's like, go. And I'll let them know why you left us, all that stuff. He let me go home. I went home and I felt like absolute shit. I would not have been able to stay a full 12 hours straight. Mind you, I had come in for a shift at like 9 in the morning, so I wasn't going to be leaving until really late at night. So, there's that. Fast forward into, I wouldn't say, early February is when things really started to change in the store. So, Nike was doing this thing called an initiative. So in an initiative, they change the store around, they go over the policies, they start redoing a lot of stuff in the store as like a reset, basically. And the managers also, they have to make sure everything goes smoothly so that they can fucking impress their corporate overlords and stuff, and their bosses or whatever. So this initiative was going on in the store. A lot of things were changing around, and for some reason, a part of their initiative was that we had to start pushing signups. Now, this is the biggest crux of the issue here, is signups. So, Nike has this thing where if you sign up, you get 15% off of your first purchase. So, signing up on the app is super easy, but for some reason, we don't really advertise it in the store like with a big sign. It's like these really tiny signs like that you can easily miss, no matter what kind of shopper you are. It's hard to see it. So, we have to basically sell these things to the customers. Now, at first, we didn't have to worry about that. It was not in our training. We didn't have to worry about it when I first started there. But it wasn't until the initiative started when the manager started getting on our ass about it. So every single day, our managers would get on the headset and tell us that we had a goal of signups that we had to do for the day. So it's like each person needs to get a minimum of 3 signups, and then eventually it went up to 5, and then recently, just before I left, it was 8. And I'm going to tell you why that's ridiculous. So, number 1, bugging customers while they're shopping, and I say this as a shopper myself, is really fucking annoying. Just let me shop and let me go look around. Having someone come up to me and be like, oh, how are you doing? Oh, no, I'm doing good. Okay, that's fine. But then the managers wanted us to follow up with, oh, do you guys have the Nike app? And then the customer will be like, no, yeah, I think so. They'll say that so that you can get off their ass, which I don't blame them, because I would do the same thing. And then they would say or they would say, no, I don't. And you'd be like, oh, well, you can get an extra 15% off if you sign up. And then you'll get like a 50-50 response. You'll be like, oh, okay, that's cool. Thanks for letting me know. Or you'll get oh, how do I sign up? You rarely get that answer. The answer you're mostly going to get is the one where they're like, oh, cool. And then it's like, oh, and I'll tell them, if you want to sign up, just let me know. And they're like, oh, sure. And then they never do. Because, again, I don't blame them. Getting the Nike app, there's no downsides to it. But it's time consuming. Because what I have to do is I have to sign into the slow-ass devices that we had that take forever to log into when you're trying to use the Assist app. And then you have to give it to them, and they have to put in their information. Now, if you're dealing with older people, it even takes even longer. That's time that's getting taken away from me customer servicing other people or doing other tasks. It's just a time-consuming waste of time for something that should be for the cash register team. Now, the manager's argument for this was that we sign up people on the floor and makes it easier for the people up at the cash register. Sure, I get that. But trying to get 5, let alone 3 signups out on the floor is really fucking hard. It's not impossible, but it's really, really hard. And the managers think that every single employee is just like the most charismatic employee to ever live, that we're all just going to be able to just be salesmen, car salesmen, and just sell them this sign up easily and integrate it into a conversation. It's like they literally just wanted us to walk up to people and be like, do you have the Nike app? Now, again, that sounds easy to some people, but for more introverted people like me, it's not that easy. And there were days where I would actually go out of my way to ask people. I would ask as many customers as I could if they had the app, and the answer I always got was, oh, I already have it. So what am I supposed to do? So then you would have, so I would have those two, managers with the big sticks up their ass I was talking about earlier that wouldn't let me leave on Black Friday. So they would come up to me all the time and they would stand me aside like I was a little kid, like in trouble, like I had done something wrong. They're like, hey, yeah, we're noticing that you're not getting signups lately, so you have 0 on the board. We really need you to get on the board, chop chop. What's the problem? Why are you not getting signups? And I'd be like, well, everyone I ask is denying me. It's like I can't control that. And they're just like, well, we need to strive for 5, okay? Or else, that we really need to push the needle here. Everybody needs to be on the board. It's unacceptable. And then they would do that stupid shit where it's like, oh, us managers, we asked people for signups and we got some on the floor just easy. So you guys have no excuse. And it's like, well, you're in an advantage because you're in a position of power. They're going to be more interested in listening to you and having that offer. When you have a short 21-year-old man like me who doesn't really like talking that much and I got resting bitch face, of course people aren't going to want to fucking sign up with me. But for the most part, that's not really the case. They're already a member. That's something I can't control. So they would do that stuff, and it was really annoying. And it wasn't just annoying to me. It got on every single employee's nerve. When I tell you, every single employee hated this approach that they were doing because it's stupid. You're basically, they were putting a value on us as employees based off of an arbitrary number. Now, that number of signups that we get doesn't correlate at all to the work that we were doing, because a lot of us were doing multiple jobs at once because people would call off, or one of the biggest things I'll get to in a bit is the scheduling was awful. So the scheduling was so bad that we would have coverage, like barely any coverage in any of the zones, which would often lead to just being undermanned and people having to take their lunches later because we had to wait for somebody to come back. So typically you're supposed to have your lunch like 4 hours into your shift. There would be many, many, many days, I mean many days, where people would be getting their lunches an hour to 2 hours later. So like not even until 5 to 6 hours into your shift, you're not getting your lunch break. Because their scheduling was so bad, they weren't having multiple people in multiple zones for good coverage. So you would have to wait for somebody to get back. And that person could take a million years to get back to the floor. Who knows what time they took their break, right? So it's like, it was so shitty the way that they did that stuff. But back to the signups. The signups really should be for the register. Because whenever you go to a retail store, you always get asked if you have this app or you're a member and stuff like that. And you either say yes or no. Do you want to sign up, yes or no? The person going up to the register is going to get that sign up or not. Me not getting it on the floor does not matter. Me being on the board does not matter, because the person that I didn't sign up might sign up at the register in a bit, or maybe they lied to me and they're already a member. It's like the number doesn't make any sense, but they put so much value on that number. If you did not get on the board, you were going to be lectured for the entire day, and they would make you feel like shit too. They would talk to you in that really patronizing tone as if you're a little kid, and it actually made one of my coworkers cry several times. She was always stressed out about that stuff, and it stressed everyone out. There was one day where they were getting on me about signups, and I just couldn't get any, and I wasn't even really like in a really good mood that day anyways, so I was already at a disadvantage. I got 0 signups that day. They made me feel like absolute shit, like I was worthless, that I didn't get any signups that day. And I was also dealing with some of the rudest customers I'd ever dealt with in a long time. So it was just adding more stress upon stress. After one of those shifts, I got in my car and I just cried. I just couldn't handle it anymore. I was at a breaking point, because you got to imagine that I've been dealing with this sign-up nonsense and this stress for several months straight of basically being damn near abused by these managers. I couldn't take it anymore. And I was talking with a coworker about it in the break room, and I'm pretty sure one of our head managers overheard us talking, because that same week she was basically being super shitty to us and talking shit about us behind our backs, which we found out later. And just just basically thinking that we weren't working hard enough or anything like that. And it's like, that doesn't make any sense, because there were days where we were working extremely hard, working these really busy weekends. Weekends at Nike are hell. They're super busy. There's always stuff going on. But, oh, we didn't get a sign up, so our work didn't matter at all. Sorry, so you didn't get a sign up, so you're basically worthless. It's basically the entire vibe that we got as employees from our managers. Now, here's the other problem. When you're at the cash register and you're trying to sign people up, it's a fucking hassle, because Nike, even though it's like the biggest clothing shoe brand in the entire world, has the most outdated system of signing people up for an email. So, at other retail stores, everyone knows that they can just type in your information on a computer. They type in your name, your email, your birthday, your phone number, whatever, and they sign you up for the whatever membership they have. At Nike, you cannot do that on the computer at the register. For some dumb fuck reason, these idiots decided, oh yeah, let's just have it do the signups on a mobile device. A mobile device that, by the way, I cannot be signed into at the same time as the computer. So I have to sign out of the computer, suspend the transaction, log into the mobile with that same employee number and password that I have. It takes like 30 seconds to log in. I hand them the phone, takes a longer for it to load, and then they have to sign up. Cool. Then they hand me back the device. I have to log out of the device. Then I have to log back into the computer and then resume the transaction. And what I'm actually supposed to do on top of that takes even more time, is have the employee download the Nike app so that they can scan their pass to get the 15% off. That takes so much time and holds the line up so much. And the managers wanted to blame us on the floor for not getting signups and having them ready at the register, when it's like, dude, first of all, it's not that easy, and number two, that's y'all's fucking corporate's fault. That's Nike's fault for making a super complicated way for signing people up for a membership, while every other retail store in the world does everything on the computer. What me and a few coworkers would do we wouldn't even care about getting people the app. We would just sign them up for their account, and then we would just give them the 15% off. And then if they downloaded the app later down the line, they would have another 15% off. So I was actually hooking them up, because I just knew that it took way too much time for them to download the app, sign in on their app, wait for it to download, all that stuff. It's so ass backwards the way that Nike does everything. Every problem I have really does just keep circling right back around to the signups. The managers were extremely hard ass about that stuff. And they were hard ass about literally everything else too. They had extreme biases as well. Like, there were days where, there was no one in the store, and I mean no one. Like, it was just dead. It would be like a Wednesday morning or like a Wednesday afternoon, and there'd be no one in the store. All the customers that were in the store were customer serviced. We helped them and all that stuff. So me and my coworkers would just do what you usually do when it's dead in the store, and you talk to each other. But while you can talk to your coworker for like two seconds, and you got a manager running over there, fucking sprinting, being like, "Hey, you guys need to break it up. No talking. You guys need to break it up." You could not do jack shit at this job. I get that if we're busy and you're talking, that is a problem. I understand that. But when it's like a slower day, all the customers are good, they found what they needed, all that stuff, and you're just talking to your coworker to shoot the shit, there's no problem. I don't see the problem in that. But then those same managers, mind you, would do the same thing. They would go stand in a corner and be talking to the other managers or talking to other coworkers of mine that they liked more, and basically talking to them for a full 10 minutes straight, laughing, shooting the shit, all that stuff. But when me and my other coworker did it, oh, it's a problem. It's suddenly a problem. We can't talk to each other. Even just walking past each other to kind of just casually say something to each other was immediately frowned upon. They watched you like a hawk and being like, nope, you can't talk to each other. You guys gotta split up, or else I'm gonna send you guys home, or some bullshit like that. Some stupid, empty threats that they would do in order to intimidate you, because that's how Nike managers operate. They operate on fear tactics and all that stuff. The managers were so extremely unprofessional, it's insane. There was also one time where me and a couple coworkers were in the break room. We were just complaining about the schedule, and our head manager comes in. She's asking us, being nosy like she usually is. She's kind of she was batshit insane, by the way. So she would just butt into our conversation. We were just telling her, like, we were just laughing. We were kind of like not wanting to tell her what we were laughing about. But we eventually did. We were like, man, the schedule sucks. The schedule is really bad. And she was like, oh, well, we have multiple managers working on the schedule every single week, and which is a dumb fucking idea, by the way. And then we basically were talking about commute times, and she verbatim said, I shit you not, she said, when I'm making the schedule, I have no sympathy for other people's commute times because I commute 50 minutes. That makes no fucking sense. So you're telling me that you have no sympathy for other people's commute times. There were people that were in college that were commuting 30 minutes to work. But so she had no sympathy for their schedule or any of their availability because her commute time's 50 minutes. One of my coworkers just told her straight up, "Why do you work here then?" She got so fucking mad because we were all laughing at what he said, and she was salty for the entire day in a shit mood. She was giving us all attitudes for no reason. She was getting on our ass more than usual. She was threatening to send my coworker home because of the fact that he kept laughing about about her being butthurt about it. She was so booty tickled that she was like pushing her anger onto us. And then at the end of the night when we're closing, having our little huddle or whatever, she's like telling us that if you guys have a problem with the way that the store is run or a problem with me, you guys can be adults and tell me about it. The whole vibe of the store has been off today, and it's like, you made the vibe bad. It's your fault for getting salty over a valid point or a joke. You fucking bimbo. She was so fucking stupid. Dude, she was the reason why I hated coming into work every single day. I hated working with her because she was so childish, she was so patronizing, and she was such a hard ass. I couldn't stand that bitch. She was also partially the reason why I quit, deadass. She was probably one of the worst manager. Not probably, she was the worst manager I've ever had at a job, period. She was awful. These managers would get so butthurt about us complaining about the job when I think we were in the right for complaining about the job because it was so trash. The scheduling, which I mentioned earlier, was also dog shit. The scheduling was so bad that there were actually weeks where I would be working 6 days straight, sometimes 7 days straight. My parents that work full-time jobs don't even work 6 days fucking straight. That's slave labor. I would work 6 days straight without a break. Now, in the state where I live in, that is technically legal, but it's not moral because they had no regard for my free time whatsoever. They didn't have regard for anyone's free time. They just thought that they actually deadass thought that I enjoyed working there, that I thought working there was a breeze. I was working full 9-hour shifts as a part-timer, by the way. I was a part-timer working 40-hour work weeks. Now, please tell me where that makes any sense. I'm a part-time employee working 40-hour weeks, just as much as a full-timer, sometimes actually more days than a full-timer, 6 days straight because they don't know how to make a schedule. I would tell them about it, and the best that they would do would just give me like 1 day off. And then I would have 1 day off and work like 5 days straight. I had zero free time to myself to do anything that outside of work, hobbies, hang out with friends, nothing. I was in a perpetual loop of just go to work, be miserable, be tired, come home, go to sleep. I had no time to do jack shit. Couldn't draw, couldn't make videos, couldn't hang out with my friends, couldn't even spend time with my family because I was always working every single fucking day. And the one thing that really like broke the camel's back that pissed me off even more was that I was lied to, because I was a part-time employee and I asked them multiple times, could I be back of house? I have social anxiety. I don't like being out on the floor. They'd never listened to me. They lied and said, oh yeah, we'll train you out on the floor and then we'll put you back of house. That never happened, ever. So I was constantly always on the floor when I didn't want to, nor did I feel comfortable to. They wanted me to do the stupid sign-up bullshit, which never made me feel comfortable again, and they stressed everyone out about that stuff. And then the big thing was that I asked for part-time hours, which I think is reasonable given the fact that I signed up for part-time, not full-time. They asked me what hours I wanted. I said between 20 to 25 because I was planning on going back to school, and I still am going back to college this year. And the same head manager that I said I hated to a pulp said that I had to work a minimum of 30 hours. Everybody has to work a minimum of 30 hours. Now, the reason why she told me this was because on my availability sheet, I put any time. Because at the time, that was true. I had open availability, so I could work any time, any week. They saw that and were like, nope, we're gonna abuse this guy. We're gonna abuse this dude to the full capabilities. Now, that is my fault for even putting it out there that I could have open availability. I admit that, but I was expecting them to kind of have, a human conscience to be like, oh yeah, maybe we shouldn't work this guy, 7 days a week, 40 hours a week, and have him, actually have some days off, like everyone else in the fucking store. But for some reason, I was the special guy that got to work like a fucking slave. So that was lie number one. And then there were a few times where I was late in the morning, and they pulled me aside and asked me like, oh, well, how can we fix this? How can we fix your availability so you're not late all the time? And I said, how about giving me half shifts? I was ignored, straight up ignored. They pretended as if I didn't even say that. And they said, well, the best we can do is we can work you, closing shifts every day. I'm serious. She deadass told me I was going to be working 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. shifts every day because I'm one of the best midday employees that they have in terms of availability. So I have no choice but to close every single fucking day. Deadass. I really wish I was pretending, but I'm very serious. She said I was going to be working 12 to 9 most days. I couldn't believe it. And then when I told my coworker about that a few weeks later, she's like, "Oh no. You're the minimum hours you're supposed to get as a part-time, especially if you ask for it, is 15. I was asking for 20 to 25, but I was told that I had to work a minimum of 30. And then here I am working 38 to 40-hour work weeks more than a full-time employee." Yep, that was it. That was the day. That was literally the day I found out. Oh, good, cool. I went to go find another job. I found another job, got locked in, and then the next shift that I worked, I basically called off. I called off to take the interview, and actually I didn't call off. I actually did a no-call, no-show, which I know can be a little scummy, but I did it on like a Monday, so there was no one fucking at the store anyway. Whatever. I could care less about that place, so I did a no-call, no-show. They actually assumed that I had quit because they overheard my conversation with my coworker before and thought that I was going to quit because of how mad I was. And I actually was going to quit. But I was actually going to put in my 2 weeks the next day. So when I came in, I just talked with all my coworkers, and I was basically telling them, like, honestly, I want to quit today. I have a new job lined up and stuff. And they're like, just do it. All my coworkers were telling me, just do it. This place sucks. Everyone here is planning to find new jobs. I dead ass. Everyone that worked there was trying to find somewhere else to work because of how awful the work conditions were. My coworkers hated it so much that almost every single person working there was trying to find another job. That's crazy. That goes to show you how awful the managers were, how terrible the schedule was, how high stress it was. It's like, for how much we were making and how awful like the customers could be and the little pay that we got, we were just getting abused, and we were tired of it. The fake fucking managers smiling in your face every day, but then at the same time talking shit behind your back and telling you that you're worthless to your face, basically. We had enough. That same day, I faked it to make it. I had full-time employees asking me if I could do tasks for them. I was like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. And actually, most of the managers that day were ignoring me completely. Like, they were completely ignoring me because of the fact that they kind of knew that I was about to quit. And I walked out on my 15-minute break. My 15-minute break, I walked out, I blocked their phone number, and then I just left. I went home. I enjoyed myself. I shot the shit with my mom and just chilled. I didn't look back. And then eventually my new job was like, oh hey, by the way, you're good to go. So we're just sending you your paperwork and all that stuff. So you should be able to start within the next few weeks. Bet. Fuck Nike. Fuck that place. One of the worst retail stores that you could possibly work in, unless you're a certain, type of person that might be able to handle that high stress or whatever. I wouldn't wish working there on my worst enemy. Other stores could be different, but I can just guarantee based off the way that this store was ran and how tight ass the managers were with the biggest sticks up their asses, where you couldn't talk to your fellow employees at all, or else you would get in trouble, or you had to constantly be on task even though there was nothing to do, constantly doing busy work, staying longer during your closing shift than you really needed to even when you had everything done, managers acting childish, treating you like shit, treating your schedule like shit, and having no respect for your free time, thinking that your entire life is Nike, thinking that you have no life outside of the job. That's literally what they thought. And they genuinely enjoyed working there and kissing up to corporate. They liked it. Every single morning huddle, we would have these managers like trying to push this Nike positivity nonsense and trying to tell us that, oh, if we get a certain amount of signups and we get certain link percentage and all that stuff, we can get snacks for the break room, or you get a blanket prize. Whoa, cool. Because us employees that are working here making a minimum wage really care that much about these stupid corporate prizes that we get no benefits for. Doing signups never got us commissions. That basically was only putting money in the manager's pockets, which is probably why they wanted to push this so hard, was because they were getting a kickback for it. But us employees were getting nothing. There was no incentive for us to do signups at all. And that was also another thing that I failed to mention earlier, was the link percentage. If you were at the register, link percentage is basically how many people that you're linking their Nike, their email with their purchase. If the link percentage was low, the managers would get so pissed and they'd be like, that's fucking terrible, guys. Seriously, they would use that language. Like, that's fucking terrible. You guys need to do better. You guys need to start linking, or else we're going to take you off the register. And then I would be going up to a register to do backup. And there was one day where I was in such a bad mood because of the managers, and she was like, yeah, if your link percentage isn't high, we're just going to take you off the register, okay? And I was just like, whatever. I would honestly just didn't care. There were just some purchases where I was dealing with customers that didn't speak any fucking English, and I was just like, whatever, I'm not even going to link them because talking to them is a headache. I don't care anymore. And I was already on my way out anyway, so yeah. If you weren't getting link percentages, they would be on the headset and make you feel like shit and basically tell you that you're worthless and you suck and that you need to do better and that the link percentage is bad. Seriously, every 15 to 30 minutes, they would be on the headset saying, here's an update on signups, here's an update on link percentage. Link percentage is at a 59%. That's really bad, guys. You guys need to do better. Oh, by the way, we have 5 signups for the day. Our goal for today is 130 signups, so the fact that you guys are only at this amount is really bad. I've only been out on the floor for 5 minutes, and I got like 5 signups by myself, so yeah, you guys need to step it up. Customer service our consumers. They would do that for like 5 minutes straight on the headset, making everyone feel like shit, doing these ridiculous updates every 15 to 30 minutes. For 9 hours straight. That shit was unbearable to listen to. Hearing that in your ear. It got to the point where we would literally just mute our headsets because they would just talk. They would just yap for so long. Just saying the same shit over and over and over again. So, this video has been way too fucking long. That shows you how much I hate this. I hated that job. Worst retail job you could possibly work. Never work at a Nike factory, ever. The pay might be decent for what it is, but honestly, it is not worth your sanity, your mental health. It'll fuck with you so hard if you're not built for that kind of environment. So, yeah, that's been it. I'll talk to you guys later.